This is how companies grab your attention. I will show you how some businesses end up chasing attention while others just attract it. I will also share a framework of how you can do this for your own business. But before we do that, why do some marketing campaigns catch fire while others fizzle out? Or better yet, how do you explain when a small company with a limited budget creates a viral sensation that outperforms multinational corporations spending millions? For example, how did Dollar Shave Club become a household name with just a single YouTube video? They were just a startup. They had the same access to cameras, script writers, and distribution channels, just as everyone else. Then why did they succeed where others failed? Why did the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge raise over $115 million when most fundraising campaigns struggle to gain traction? And why did Wendy's simple Twitter responses transform their brand perception when other companies had been attempting social media humor for years without breakthrough success? Apparently, all the most memorable and effective marketing campaigns, whether from tiny startups or global brands, share specific psychological triggers that speak directly to how humans make decisions. All I did was identify these triggers, and it's surprisingly straightforward. I call it the excitement framework. The excitement framework is built on 3 core elements: connection, tension, and resolution. Connection, tension, and resolution. This simple structure explains why some marketing campaigns instantly grab attention and inspire action, while others are forgotten immediately. Let me define these elements quickly. Every successful marketing campaign establishes a connection with its audience, not just demographically, but emotionally and psychologically. Some campaigns create the right tension, a gap between where people are and where they want to be, a problem that needs solving, or curiosity that demands satisfaction. But very few marketers understand how to craft the perfect resolution that doesn't just solve the problem but transforms the audience's relationship with the brand. Most marketers approach campaigns from a feature-first perspective, focusing on what they want to say rather than how the audience needs to feel. But the campaigns that generate genuine excitement, the ones that spread organically and drive real action, they all approach marketing from the inside out, starting with emotional connection before ever mentioning a product feature. Let me give you a deeper look at how the excitement framework functions. When I say connection, I'm talking about tapping into something your audience already believes, feels, or experiences. Beliefs, feels, or experiences. Tension arises when you highlight a gap between their current state and desired state. Resolution is how your product or service bridges that gap in a satisfying way. These are fireworks. Let me demonstrate with Dollar Shave Club, since they are easy to understand and everyone remembers their breakthrough. If Dollar Shave Club had marketed like most companies, their message might have sounded something like this. We sell razor blade subscriptions. They are inexpensive, convenient, and delivered monthly to your door. Want to sign up? That's forgettable, right? That's how most marketing works. Describing what you offer, listing benefits, and asking for the sale. Here's how Dollar Shave Club actually communicated. Their viral video opened with the founder saying, "Are the razors any good? No, our blades are fucking great." They connected by acknowledging the shared frustration of overpriced razors, created tension by highlighting the absurdity of paying for shave tech you really don't need, and offered a simple resolution. Dollar Shave Club delivering great razors for just a few bucks a month. Totally different approach, isn't it? You are ready to sign up instantly. I just illustrated how they flipped the traditional marketing message by starting with connection and tension before offering a resolution. What this proves is that people don't respond to lists or features. They respond to marketing that resonates with their existing beliefs and frustrations. This explains why Dollar Shave Club didn't need to compete with Gillette's massive R&D budget or marketing spend. They simply needed to connect emotionally, create the right tension, and offer a satisfying resolution. This also explains why we are perfectly comfortable buying from brands that venture far outside their original categories. Take Red Bull. Red Bull started as just an energy drink company. Nothing structurally distinguished them from competitors. Yet, consumers happily embrace Red Bull music events, sports competitions, and media content. Their competitors could certainly create similar offerings, and many have tried. Monster Energy sponsors events too, but they haven't created the same emotional connection. People don't respond to what you sell, they respond to what you stand for. The goal isn't to reach everyone who needs your product. The goal is to connect with people who share your worldview. When marketing resonates at this deeper level, features become secondary to the emotional experience you are promising. Here's the fascinating part. None of what I'm telling you is just my opinion. The excitement framework is deeply rooted in neuroscience and behavioral psychology. When we examine how the brain processes marketing messages, we discover that emotional responses precede rational analysis. The amygdala and the limbic system, the emotional centers of our brain, process information much faster than our prefrontal cortex, which handles logical reasoning. Let me try draw the brain for you. So the amygdala and the limbic system form the emotional centers, while the neocortex system forms the part of the brain where logical reasoning is done. And if this was our forehead, this would be the prefrontal cortex, this front part right here. This means we feel before we think. Research from neuroscientist Antonio Damasio has shown that people with damage to the emotional centers of their brain struggle to make even simple decisions, despite their analytical capabilities remaining intact. Why? Because decision-making requires emotional input, what we often call gut feeling. This directly relates to our framework. The connection element speaks directly to the limbic system, creating an emotional response that primes the brain for action. When we create tension, we are activating what neuroscientists call cognitive itch, the brain's natural desire to resolve open loops and unanswered questions. This triggers the release of dopamine, creating anticipation for the resolution. Studies using fMRI technology have consistently shown that effective marketing activates these emotional brain regions first, before lighting up areas associated with logical reasoning. When Nike shows someone overcoming obstacles, your brain isn't calculating the cost-benefit of shoe features. It's experiencing the emotional resonance of triumph over adversity. The science reveals something critical. People process features and benefits in the analytical part of the brain, but they make decisions in the emotional centers. When we communicate with features first, we are talking to the wrong part of the brain. You can provide all the specifications and data points about your product, but if you haven't established emotional connection first, the brain simply doesn't prioritize that information for decision making. This explains why focus groups can be misleading. People might rationally evaluate your messaging and say it makes sense, but that doesn't mean it will drive behavior. Marketing that excites people operates at a deeper neurological level. It creates an emotional response that the rational mind later justifies with facts and features. People don't analyze and then get excited. They get excited and then find reasons to justify that excitement. Let me show you how to apply the excitement framework to your marketing efforts, regardless of your industry or budget. This isn't theoretical, it's a practical approach you can implement immediately. First, to establish connection, you need to deeply understand your audience's existing beliefs and frustrations. Don't just rely on demographic data. Conduct qualitative research to uncover the emotional terrain. Ask questions like, what keeps your potential customers up at night? What do they believe about your industry that no one else is acknowledging? What identity do they aspire to? For example, when Dove launched their Real Beauty campaign, they didn't start by thinking about soap features. They recognized women's frustration with unrealistic beauty standards, a belief many held but few brands acknowledged. This emotional connection gave them permission to enter a much deeper conversation with their audience. To create effective tension, highlight the gap between your audience's current state and desired state, but do it in a way that feels authentic rather than manipulative. Sorry about that. The best tension doesn't make people feel inadequate, it makes them feel understood. Ask yourself, what's the cost of inaction? What opportunity are they missing? What contradiction exists in their current approach? When Airbnb asks, don't go there, live there, they are creating tension between being a tourist and having an authentic experience. The tension is subtle but powerful. It makes traditional accommodations suddenly feel insufficient without directly attacking them. For resolution, the key is to show transformation rather than just features. Your product isn't the hero, your customer is. Your offering is simply the tool that enables their transformation. Focus on how your customer emerges changed. What new capability or identity do they gain? What story will they tell others? When Apple shows people creating amazing videos with an iPhone, they are not selling camera specs. They are offering the resolution to the tension between I want to create beautiful things and I lack professional equipment. The resolution isn't the phone, it's becoming a creator. Here's how to put this into practice. Create a simple worksheet with 3 columns labeled connection, tension, and resolution. For connection, list the beliefs and frustrations your audience already has. For tension, articulate the gaps between their current and desired state. For resolution, focus on the transformation your offering enables. Then craft messaging that follows this emotional sequence rather than leading with features. Let me try and share a quick example of this template that you can use. Let's try with the audience of let's say we have a product that we are selling to new parents. So once we are done with the template, like I've written, hope you can see this, hope you can read it, but I'll share something in the descriptions below, including the messaging that would go with this connection, tension, and resolution for this audience, new parents. So for the connection, the belief is their children deserves the best. That's what parents would like for their children. And they're frustrated by conflicting parenting advice. For the tension, there is a gap between wanting to be perfect parents and feeling constantly overwhelmed. So the resolution would be to transform from anxious first-timers, confident caregivers who trust their instincts. So I'll share something in the description below that shows the messaging that would go with this when you're targeting this audience. So let's proceed. Test different approaches, but maintain this psychological structure. Remember, features can be copied by competitors, but emotional connections are much harder to replicate. So, whether you are writing an email subject line, designing a landing page, or creating a video campaign, leading with connection before introducing tension and resolution will dramatically increase engagement and conversion rates. Let me share a fascinating historical example from Japan that perfectly illustrates our excitement framework in action. In the 1970s, 2 camera companies were competing for market dominance, Canon and Nikon. Both produced exceptional cameras with similar technical specifications and quality. Both had access to the same distribution channels and retail opportunities. From a product perspective, they were remarkably similar. But Canon implemented a strategy that transformed their position in the market, while Nikon initially struggled to adapt. The difference came down to their fundamental approach to marketing. Nikon focused primarily on technical excellence and professional features. Their marketing emphasized precision engineering, optical quality, and technical specifications. They targeted professional photographers and serious enthusiasts. This approach had served them well for decades, establishing them as the premier choice for professionals. Canon, meanwhile, recognized a significant shift in the market. They observed the growing interest in photography among everyday consumers who were intimidated by complex equipment. Instead of competing on Nikon's terms of technical superiority, Canon completely reframed their approach. In 1976, Canon launched their AE1 camera with a revolutionary campaign featuring tennis star John Borg with a tagline, "So advanced, it's simple." This campaign wasn't built around superior specifications. It was designed around a powerful emotional connection. Canon established connection by acknowledging the widespread belief that great photography was inaccessible to ordinary people. They created tension by highlighting the gap between people's desire to capture beautiful moments and their fear of complex camera equipment. Then, they offered resolution with a camera that promised to make professional quality photography accessible to everyone. This fundamentally changed how consumers viewed cameras. Before Canon's campaign, most people believed that great photography required technical expertise. After Canon's campaign, millions began to believe that they too could take amazing photos. The results were dramatic. The Canon AE1 became the most successful camera of its era, selling over 1 million units, an unprecedented achievement at that time. Meanwhile, Nikon, with its continued focus on technical specifications rather than emotional benefits, temporarily lost market share despite having technically comparable or even superior products. What's particularly interesting is that Canon didn't succeed by creating a drastically different product. Their innovation was in how they communicated. They spoke directly to the emotional needs of their audience rather than competing on technical specifications alone. Years later, Nikon recognized this shift and adjusted their approach, creating more emotionally resonant campaigns. But Canon's early recognition of the power of emotional connection gave them a significant advantage during a critical market transition. This historical example demonstrates that even in highly technical markets, emotional connection drives consumer behavior more powerfully than product specifications. Canon didn't win because their cameras were objectively better. They won because they understood that people truly wanted to feel like capable photographers regardless of their technical knowledge. To further understand why the excitement framework works so effectively, we need to explore another important concept: the emotional decision hierarchy. This theory explains how emotions fundamentally drive our decision-making process, even when we believe we are being purely rational. The emotional decision hierarchy shows that all purchasing decisions follow a specific sequence. First comes emotional response, then rationalization, and finally action. Emotional response, then rationalization, then lastly action. And that's an arrow going down. So first comes emotional response, then rationalization, then action. Most marketers mistakenly focus their efforts on the rationalization stage by providing logical arguments and product features, not realizing that the emotional response has already largely determined the outcome. Research by our previous neuroscientist, Antonio Damasio, found that patients with damage to emotional centers of their brain could understand the logical aspects of decisions but couldn't actually make choices. Without emotional guidance, even simple decisions became impossible. This research fundamentally challenged our understanding of decision making. What this means for marketing is profound. When someone encounters your message, their emotional brain makes an almost instantaneous judgment before their rational brain has processed the information. By the time they are consciously evaluating your offering, they've already decided how they feel about it. This explains why customers often can't articulate why they chose one brand over another, despite both having similar features and benefits. They'll point to rational factors, but the truth is that their emotional response came first, and their rational mind simply created a logical justification afterwards. Understanding this hierarchy helps explain why our excitement framework is so powerful. When we create connection first, we are engaging with the emotional brain on its own terms, establishing a positive foundation before rational evaluation begins. The tension element creates emotional investment, making people care about the resolution before it's even presented. This is why marketing that leads with facts and features so often fails to excite people. It's addressing the rational mind while the emotional mind is still making its initial assessment. By the time you present your features, the emotional decision may already have been made. The emotional decision hierarchy isn't just theoretical, it's been validated by countless studies in consumer behavior. It explains why people will pay premium prices for products with almost identical specifications to cheaper alternatives. The emotional value, how the product makes them feel, often outweighs rational considerations of price and features. This theory reinforces why the sequence of our framework matters so much. Connection before tension before resolution mirrors how our brains naturally process information and make decisions. Let me give you a clear example of how ignoring the excitement framework leads to marketing failures, even when everything else seems perfectly aligned for success. Consider the case of Google+. Launched in 2011, Google had everything going for it when they launched their social media platform. They had enormous financial resources with billions in the bank to support the initiative. They had incredible technical talent, some of the brightest minds in Silicon Valley. Market conditions seemed ideal. Social media was booming and users were open to new platforms. They even had a massive existing user base through Gmail, YouTube, and other Google services that they could leverage. By conventional marketing wisdom, Google Plus should have been an extraordinary success. Yet, despite all these advantages, Google Plus failed spectacularly and was ultimately shut down in 2019. Why? Because their approach violated the core principles of the excitement framework. When Google Plus launched, their marketing focused almost entirely on features. Circles for organizing contacts, Hangouts for video chats, Streams for content. They emphasized what the platform could do rather than connecting with users' existing beliefs or frustrations with social media. There was no emotional connection established. The tension they created was problematic as well. Rather than highlighting a meaningful gap between users' current and desired state, Google essentially said, Facebook isn't Google. This created artificial tension that didn't resonate with the real user needs or frustrations. Their resolution was equally flawed. Instead of showing how Google Plus would transform users' social media experience in meaningful ways, they simply presented a feature-rich alternative that required users to rebuild their entire social graph from scratch. The result? Despite having over 500 million registered users, many automatically enrolled through other Google services, engagement was poor. People created accounts but didn't use the platform. Google had built a technically competent product but failed to give people a compelling emotional reason to switch from Facebook or Twitter. At that time, now X. What if Google had applied the excitement framework? They might have connected with the growing frustration many users felt about privacy issues on Facebook at that time, maybe even now. They could have created tension around the gap between users' desire for control over their data and the reality of existing platforms. Then they could have positioned Google Plus as the resolution, a platform that puts users in control of their social experience while maintaining the connections they value. This failure demonstrates a critical point. Technical excellence and resources cannot compensate for a lack of emotional connection. See, I'm touching my chest. Google approached social media as an engineering problem rather than an emotional one. They built a product that looked good on paper but failed to excite users. The lesson is clear. No matter how feature-rich your offering might be, if you don't establish connection, create meaningful tension, and offer a compelling resolution, your marketing will fail to generate excitement. Now, let's examine a brilliant modern application of the excitement framework that created tremendous marketing success. In 2014, a small Swedish company called Oatly was virtually unknown outside its home country. Oatly, let me try to spell that. I believe that's correct. Today, it's a global brand valued at billions of dollars. What changed wasn't their product. They'd been making oat milk since the 1990s, but their approach to marketing. When Oatly decided to expand globally, they could have taken the conventional approach. They could have focused on product attributes. Our oat milk has this much protein, these vitamins, and tastes great in coffee or tea or whatever. They could have competed directly with almond milk and soy milk or nutritional comparisons. But they didn't. Instead, CEO Tony reimagined their marketing approach around emotional connection rather than product features. Oatly's packaging, advertising, and social media all centered around a simple message. It's like milk, but meant for humans. This approach masterfully applied our excitement framework. First, they established connection by acknowledging something many people already believed but rarely had expressed, that consuming another species' milk might be a bit strange when you think about it. This wasn't an attack on dairy drinkers. It was a playful acknowledgement of a thought many had considered. They created tension by highlighting the gap between people's growing environmental consciousness and their consumption habits. Their cartoons asked questions like, "Are you stupid? No, you're not. So why would you drink anything less than this?" The resolution they offered wasn't just a milk alternative. It was a way to align your daily choices with your values without sacrifice. They positioned Oatly not as a compromise for the lactose intolerant, but as a forward-thinking choice for conscious consumers. The results were extraordinary. Between 2017 and I think 2020, Oatly's sales increased tenfold. They successfully entered the highly competitive US market and created such demand that they experienced product shortages there. In 2021, they went public with a valuation of about $10 billion, all with minimal traditional advertising. Can you imagine that? $10 billion. What makes Oatly's success particularly illustrative is that their product wasn't revolutionary. Oat milk had existed for decades. Their competitors had similar access to ingredients, manufacturing capabilities, and distribution channels. But Oatly understood that features alone don't create excitement. Emotional connection does. Their marketing didn't try to convince people that oat milk was better than dairy milk on a feature-by-feature basis. Instead, it connected with existing values, created tension around unexamined habits, and offered a simple resolution that made people feel good about their choices. This approach allowed them to build a passionate customer base that wasn't just buying a product but participating in a movement. Their customers became advocates, spreading the message far beyond what Oatly's marketing budget could have achieved alone. The Oatly case demonstrates perfectly how the excitement framework can transform a commodity product into a cultural phenomenon by focusing on emotional connection rather than product specifications. People don't respond to features, they respond to feelings. This fundamental truth explains why some marketing campaigns capture imagination and drive action, while others are instantly forgotten. The excitement framework, connection, tension, and resolution gives us a powerful structure for creating marketing that resonates at a deeper level. When we connect with existing beliefs, create meaningful tension, and offer transformative resolutions, we speak directly to the emotional brain where decisions are actually made. This isn't just theory, it's biology. Our brains are wired to make emotional decisions first and then rationalize them later. The most successful marketers understand this process and align their messaging accordingly. Whether you're a marketing revolutionary technology or a commodity product, the principles remain the same. Google Plus failed despite unlimited resources because they neglected emotional connection. Oatly, on the other hand, succeeded despite limited resources because they prioritized it. The Wright brothers achieved flight not because they had better resources than Langley, go read that story, but because they were driven by something deeper. The path to marketing that excites people isn't through more features or bigger budgets. It's through deeper understanding of human psychology. Start with why people should care, not what your product does. Connect before you convince. Create tension before offering resolution. Remember, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And when you communicate from the inside out, from belief to features rather than features to belief, you'll create marketing that doesn't just inform people but inspires them.